Welcome to Shop Talks, which is a production of the In Kitchen. Check out inkitchen.com for free information. Check out In Kitchen on YouTube. We have a channel where we have over 200 videos. I would say 99% of them are people that know what they're talking about, and so you do well to check them out. We have sponsors for this, which is Emerald, that puts the show on. Hirsch Solutions, Stalls, Transfer Express, Los Angeles Apparel. They make all this information possible. One of the purposes that I started Shop Talks was to highlight people in the industry that actually know what they're talking about. Previously, I think in a lot of ways, the people that had the microphones or were on the stage were just self-promoters or selling you something, and instead it's been a pleasant surprise to find so many people willing to talk and share their knowledge. And I have with me one of the people that I've always valued her knowledge that she's been willing to share with me and her expertise. Andre Routzahn from AlphaBroder. She's the chief merchant there. She'll be retiring, and I'm like, we better get a little more information out of her before she goes. So welcome, Andrea.
Thanks, Rick. It's great to be here. Hi, everyone.
All right, I'm going to just jump right into something. So we're talking a little bit about garment construction. I have a few questions, things that even after I've been in the business since dinosaurs ruled the earth, but some things I still don't understand. But I'm going to start with something that you just were telling me earlier that I loved the idea, the difference between size and fit. I think I'm going to use this from every day from now on, but what's this idea between size and fit?
So I think one of the biggest challenges selling apparel in this channel is figuring out what size you are, right? You've got end user or organization or company, and it's like, what size do I order? You know, we've got all these different brands, all these different styles, and there's really not a consistent fit. Everyone here goes to a certain store where they have a certain brand that they know of, that they like, because they know what size they are, right? Like, I go to this store, I know this. But in our industry, it's challenging. And I think, even for the women, it's even more challenging. For the most part, men are hangers, they're shoulders and waist, right? But women come in all different shapes and sizes. And a lot of times people just get really intimidated by what size they are. Nothing's worse for someone than to fill out a chart or an order and say, this is what size I am. And I always encourage people, there's a difference between the size number on a garment and the fit that you like. Everybody likes their clothes to fit differently. I prefer a looser fit. I like things comfortable. And I illustrated this once for our sales team. And I thought, who in the last 30 years has remained pretty much the same body shape? And for whatever reason, I thought of Jerry Seinfeld. I said, he's never gotten really big or really skinny. So I started to do research, and I looked at images, and
This is where I say that's funny.
It is funny, but it's true. And then I said, the images of Jerry Seinfeld wearing a polo shirt in the 1990s, and you can find anything on the internet, right? And so I illustrated it, and here he is wearing a polo shirt, when his show was popular in the 90s. And if you remember back then, polo shirts were drop shoulder, long sleeve, big fit. And then Jerry Seinfeld wearing a polo shirt today, the sleeve's a little shorter, it's a little tighter, a little shorter. They're all a size large, right? He never really changed. So fit changes over time, and preference changes over time. So I think, the thing that I always recommend, most people, when they give you their size specs, so you go on alphabroder.com or any Gildan.com and you see a measurement, that's your body measurement. That's not the garment measurement, right? And then you always want to allow ease, right? Because even if your chest is a size, you're a guy, your chest is a size 40, unless you want that skin tight, you want to put a little bit of ease in there. So I think that's something that we probably get the biggest questions about, like how do we tell our customers what size to order? So I wanted to share that because it's a matter of your fit. You know, some people like their things really tight. If something's got stretch in it, it's a little more comfortable than if it doesn't. So fit and size are two different things. It's like a two-part prong. So just wanted to share that.
I love that. That's a good one. We could just stop, actually. That's good. Actually, so a few years ago, someone explained to me what the weight of the fabric is, and they had the little punching thing and all that. So what is, when something's 5.5 ounces, it's funny how many people bandy this about and have no idea what that means. What does that mean, and how do you measure it?
So weights are interesting because in the world of fabric, every fabric has a different width. So whether it's woven fabric that comes off a loom or it's knit fabric that comes off a circular machine or what have you, the width of the fabric is different. So they came up with a measurement in the rest of the world that uses the metric system. It's grams per square meter, and in the US it's ounces per square yard. So basically how you determine that is there's a little system where you punch little circles, and you punch so many little circles and you can weigh it. But it's basically like a way to uniformly identify weight, because if you did like ounces per yard, it would be a different square inch of fabric, because some fabrics have a narrow width, some fabrics have a wide width. And it really varies, like in our industry, there used to be a feeling like heavier is better, right? So it was a sign of quality, but it's really very different. And each kind of yarn has its different characteristics. Woven fabrics are different than knit fabrics, than outerwear. So, in like the world of, our industry is for the most part t-shirts and hoodies. Most of them are made out of cotton or a blend of cotton and polyester. A 10 or 12 ounce weight fleece is like a heavier weight fleece. A 7 or 8 ounce weight fleece is a little bit lighter weight. In the world of t-shirts, fashion t-shirts were really popular, came out with a super lightweight 4.5 ounce. The difference in like 4.3 ounce to 4.6 ounce is you'd never feel the difference. Like sometimes we have to be exact with the decimal point of a weight, but it's very negligible. In t-shirts, the difference between a 5 ounce and a 5.5 ounce, the average person is not going to feel the difference. But when you get up to 6 ounces and 7 ounces, and even some t-shirts now are like 7 and 8 ounces, that's the weight. And I could go even deeper.
It's like Spinal Tap.
Yarn sizes, but so it's a whole thing.
Like Spinal Tap, right? That goes up to 11.
Yes.
How close are those? Like, you know what I mean? When does it vary? What's your tolerances like when you have a vendor and they send in shirts? Like, how close do they have to be on the weight actually?
Usually tolerances are pretty tight. Like everyone will have like their quality level, like within plus or minus 5%, within plus or minus 7%. But 5% of 5.5 ounces is, 0.2 ounces. If you're never going to feel the difference, right? So, but yeah, I think, pretty much, because fabrics are knit and woven on machinery, so it's pretty easy to keep that standard. The way companies can cheat is in the finishing of the fabric. Do you ever buy a t-shirt and you love it, or a fleece, and then you wash it and it shrinks like crazy? That's more because the tension of the fabric when it was knit was kept sort of loose, right? So and then it shrinks back up when you wash it. So there's so much that goes into fabric. It's not only just kind of how it's made, but how it's finished.
What's maybe, I don't know, this could be a hard question. What do you think are some quality aspects of garments, whether t-shirts or sweatshirts, that people don't think about that they maybe should think about? Like, how if it's taped or double needle, or, you know, like what kind of where you would think something's quality and people may not ask the question, but when you're looking for a vendor to make a quality product, what are some of the aspects of a garment that you might look at?
So, I mean, I think, you know, you want to make sure, like, consistency is really important. You know, some of the best brands in our industry control the whole manufacturing process. You know, they have consistency. You know what to expect each and every time that you buy that. But quality, like size, is very subjective. You know, I mean, there's some folks that don't like a really fine weight, fine gauge t-shirt. Right, it's a little clingy, it's not very forgiving, it tends to wear out quicker. But I would think, you know, fabric is only as strong as the yarn it's woven or knit from. So you'll hear a lot about ring spun yarn and combed ring spun yarn. Combed ring spun yarn is just inherently stronger. It comes naturally from the longer fibers from the cotton. You know, if you imagine like a cotton ball on a plant. Open end yarn is the shorter fibers, and it's spun in a different way. So there really is something about combed ring spun. The longer the fibers, as you twist the yarn, it's smoother. So for those of you that are screen printers, you know, like that fuzzy surface really can interfere with the effect. So,
With
wait.
the owner of Toyota Sienna.
Sorry, take a little pause.
Sienna with a New York license plate starting with LCW. Again, with the owner of the silver Toyota Sienna.
Isn't that why they invented tow trucks?
Starting with LCW. Please check it at the atrium on the first floor information desk.
Thanks.
Hello everyone, once again, silver Toyota Sienna with a New York license plate starting with LCW. Please check in with the security at the atrium. Thank you.
It's like a Jerry Seinfeld curse.
All right, the other one, I don't know, I've had this explained to me a million times and it doesn't stick in my brain. What does singles mean? What's 18 singles, 30 singles? I know the higher is the finer, but what does it actually mean?
It's how many like sub yarns are twisted into a yarn. So a singles means it's just one ply. A doubles means you've taken 2 plies of yarn and twisted them together. So typically in a t-shirt it's singles, right? And then I could go really crazy. In cotton yarns, the smaller the number, the fatter the yarn. So like an 18 singles yarn is kind of a fatter diameter than like a 30s doubles. It's so 2-ply yarns, just like longer staples of cotton, 2-ply yarns are stronger. So a lot of men's shirting or really fine shirting is 2-ply yarn. So 18 singles, 30 doubles, 60, so it's measuring in how many, single ply or 2-ply yarn. It's like single ply toilet paper and 2-ply toilet paper. 2-ply is always nicer.
Okay. So you've been doing this a while. Where do you see garments headed? Like what are we going to see in the future in your estimation in Andrea's crystal ball here?
Well, it's been interesting, I think, to see. I think there is going to be more and more of a return to natural fibers. I mean, you know, if I think about what I've seen with, you know, fabric over the past so many years of my life, polyesters. I mean, we're all wearing mostly polyester. Some version of polyester has come a long way. But polyester is made from, it's oil. It's made from a chemical, right? And they've done a lot of good things. Polyester can give strength. You know, a cotton poly yarn is going to be stronger than a cotton yarn. But I do think there's going to be more of a return to natural fibers. We're already seeing a lot of activity coming out with like all of the chemicals used, like, so those of you that are aware of like things like in the outerwear, PFAS bans, things with like DWR finishes. So I think there's going to be a lot of interest in sort of removing a lot of the unnecessary chemicals from our fabrics. Europe is doing a lot with circularity. You know, textile is one of the biggest wastes in landfills across the world. You know, sort of this idea of fast fashion over the past so many years has just produced a lot of textile waste. So you're going to start to see, you know, consideration about not only garment manufacturers having to make it, but also think about the disposal end of it. So that's why quality is really important, you know. You guys are in this industry like I am, you know. I walk around here and, you know, there's a lot of really great quality product that, you know, you want to last versus just the throwaway. So I think you're going to start to see circularity force quality and kind of force that sort of, you know, landfill mentality. As much as I love the Philly fanatic, you know, shooting a T-shirt out on hot dog day, you know, but it should be something you want to keep, not something you get and you're like, ugh, you know, this isn't.
I think this is a cue to tell a story about me and a T-shirt, actually. So, you know how they shoot those T-shirts off, right? Some at a Providence Bruins game, and they're shooting the shirts off, and people, like, they make people yell, like, and then they shoot it to that area, and I'm like, pardon my French, but it's like, it's a fucking $1.50 T-shirt with a crappy radio station thing on it. Who the hell wants that? Why are they screaming for it? So, of course, where does the shirt land? Shirts it to me. So I played a lot of baseball. I'm pretty high up, but I took the shirt and I threw it all the way back on the ice. And then what was funny is people came like up to, I always wanted somebody to do that. And like everybody started throwing them back and they had to skate off the ice. I ruined the promotion. Somebody got to print less T-shirts next time because of me.
That's one way to squash the competition.
Anyway, so, and in fact, to get back to what you were saying about the polyester, also the hardest things to recycle, this has only come up, I don't know about you, but only heard about it as much for the last year or two, of mixed fabrics are the hardest to recycle. It's easier to recycle an entirely polyester or entirely cotton shirt. So we're going to see maybe less blends, I don't know.
Yeah, it is interesting because recycled cotton yarns are starting to really gain traction. We're seeing quite a few brands launch that with a recycled cotton. Another thing that's really interesting about recycling is you can't like recycle the labels, right? So there's the U.S. laws around garment labeling haven't changed since like, I don't know, 1961, I think. We've all bought
1861.
Yeah, we've all bought garments with those big like labels that come in 27 languages. So there's a Association of American Apparel Manufacturers that are trying to get the U.S. government to approve QR coding. So you print a QR code inside a garment, and then you scan it, you can see what it's made from, where it was made, and then it's always updatable. So like if there's a recall or something like that, you could do it in your language, right? So say your language is Spanish, your phone would read it and do that. So I hope that happens because, if you print that in a garment, it's a permanent part of the garment. You can always trace it. You can use it as a way to, have that information, and you don't have all of the labels that you have to cut out or whatever. Yeah, so I think these are circularity of clothing. I think is going to be a huge thing over the next. And if you're interested, I would read what's coming out of the European Union. They just passed sweeping laws around this, which is pretty fascinating. I always say it's coming for us.
I noticed one, I think it was Hanes, has a addition to the polyester, so it'll break down. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, they developed with, I can't recall the name of it, it begins with a C, but they've developed a biodegradable polyester. I mean, it's all relative, right? It's just it degrades faster than a traditional polyester. But yeah, I mean, the real challenge with apparel is less about how to make it break down faster, and it's more about how to make it quality that people want to wear and use and long lasting. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting.
Any other trends that you see? I mean, it seems like there's more diversity of product. It was like everything's going to be small, everything's going to be big, but it seems like anything goes in some ways now.
Yeah, like, the trends happen quicker, right? Someone once told me if you're old enough to have worn that trend when it was first out, you shouldn't wear it when it's out the second time around. But I think that's changing, like who would have foreseen the baby tees, right? The early 1990s, girls are wearing it's like tiny big. It's either tiny on the top and giant pants or big tops and tights. And, right now what's happening relative to trends is everything that's sort of is happening in the 90s, but it's just so quick. So I think it is. It's just like, it's just going to spin and spin and spin. And then certainly what's happening on social media makes it very crazy. But yeah, I do think there is just a personalization of your style and less of a fad, but quality, heavier weight. Just when like lightweight t-shirts became really cool, the cool kids wanted heavyweight t-shirts again, and then it just flips back and forth like that. So it's always going to be like that.
I've noticed a change, I think. I'm sure on your end you see it from a different angle, but it seems like actually people care about how the garments are decorated. There was a time, like 10 years ago, it's like, we made this cool shirt. It's unprintable, but you figure out how to print it. It seems like now there's a little more cooperation, maybe?
Yeah, excuse me, yes. We were just talking, Rick and I, before we came on. For a period of time, I worked for a company where I was a customer in our industry. So I had been, kind of on the supplier side.
Karma there.
Yeah, so I was a customer, and I remember Angel was the name of the guy that ran our screen print, and he would come to my office and he'd be like, I don't know, last week I printed this style and it was fine, and now I'm printing it and all the ink's bleeding through, it won't, I really got an appreciation for how challenging it is to decorate, products within the industry. So, there is a lot of that. And I also think ink and other decoration companies are doing a really good job as well. I think that there's a lot of that. And certainly the bigger brands in our industry are partnering with decorators and decoration material suppliers to really test things before they come to market. Direct to film is going to change a lot. Right now it's still a little, early, but I think that's only going to get better.
Well, I think garment manufacturers in some ways fueled the rise of transfers because it's a more repeatable solution for everything. You can dial it in. You can say time, temperature, pressure, and a certain thing will work on a garment, and that's harder to do screen printing wise. So I think that's one of the many reasons transfers, besides low barriers to entry and all kinds of other reasons. All right, maybe questions. Did you have other stuff you wanted to say first?
No, I think this was great. I didn't know if there was anything you guys have a question. Okay. You'll have to stand up.
Oh, okay. The question is, what are thoughts about hemp material as a material?
I think if they can scale it, it's a good raw material. It's kind of like bamboo, right? It's easily renewed. We have a brand E-Conscious that uses a lot of hemp. And so, yeah, I do think it has a lot of potential. You can't get the same softness that you can out of cotton, but I love it. I think it's cool. It's kind of gone out of the hippie realm into things that, I think you can really do some nice things. But it is all of that kind of flax, rainy. It's the renewable aspect of it is that it doesn't require a lot of pesticides to grow. Cotton, organic cotton is expensive because it takes a lot of soil nurturing, to kind of get a good crop. Whereas hemp is a little more like a weed grass versus cotton. So, but yeah. I think it's good. I think it's the real thing.
A weed grass, yeah, that's right.
I didn't even mean it that way.
I know, I had to point that out. It is funny though, bamboo as well. how it's grown matters. You know, if you cut down a lot of trees to grow bamboo, that's a terrible thing. And then bamboo often, I guess they make cellulose. They make almost like rayon out of it, really. And the process can be a terrible industrial process. So it sounds all great using this weedy tree that should be cut down everywhere, but it depends where it's grown and how it's processed, which maybe gets to your QR code. More and more, like you want a transparency. How is this grown? Where does it come from? How is it done? Et cetera. It's not just an issue of what it looks like on the face of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, but one thing about like sustainability within apparel or within fabrics, there isn't like one global governing body, you know, like fair labor, you know, there's governing bodies. We know what constitutes something that's made socially compliant, fair labor. But unlike organic farming, say, in textiles, there isn't that governing body with sustainability. So there's companies that do things, you know, like you might have heard of companies like Blue Sign or the Higg Index. They all have different aspects, but no one's rolling it all in together. So you're going to see a lot of that, you know, like California, the state of California just passed really big laws on greenhouse gases and sustainability and reporting. So, you know, we do a lot of research, but it's daunting. Someone that I talked to recently said that sustainability is moving more away from sort of the product sustainability and in more regulatory. So, and it's only when, look, like anything, any business, when it hits your bottom line or it hits your ability to sell, that's when we look at it. So as governments worldwide really move into regulatory aspect of mandating sustainability, mandating this, I think it will evolve, but that's just human beings. It's, you know, like if you go back in history, anything is, you know, taken advantage of until it's, every loophole is closed and then you've got to comply. But I think it's happening.
Other questions?
Mine was similar. It was just about the circularity of non-cotton fabrics. If they have circularity, like I don't think polyesters do, but and recycled plastics.
All right, so the question is about recycled plastics in garments and about the circularity of polyester in garments. Yeah.
I think polyester, for the most part, there's two major ways you recycle it. There's post-consumer, which for the most part is this. It's all of our PET water bottles. There's places in the world that make water bottles just to recycle them, just so they can say this is made from recycled water bottles. So seriously, so that's where, you know, you
That is horrifying.
yeah, no, but it's true. So like post-industrial waste is a lot easier to recycle. So like a lot of the recycled cottons we're seeing aren't necessarily coming from people's T-shirts that are gathered and recycled, but recycled waste from when you cut out pattern pieces, and all that waste used to just go to landfills. So now it's being gathered and made. So that's kind of like virgin, and the same thing with polyester. There are people that are doing verified post-consumer recycled polyester, like Reprieve is a brand name there, but it comes with a cost. So yeah, it's like the post is the hard thing because it's still, you got to handle it, you got to sort it, and yeah, it is.
Actually, there's a company over here, Fairweather Johnson. They're kind of interesting. They are post-consumer cotton, so they actually sort. So the colors vary. So they sort black, red, blue, whatever.
Yeah, we get like heathers in like a range. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it's all red or it's all blue. It's just a little bit different sometimes, and they just take out the zippers, buttons, and re-knit it, I guess. But that's, you know, not for everything.
Can you talk a little bit about color trends that you've seen in fabrics, and also looking around at community, I see so many vibrant colors, and how does that last with washing?
Okay, two questions there, really. What's the color forecast there? Boy, I bet you lost a few nights' sleep over that one. And then, bright colors hold up on garments.
So we're seeing a lot of brights because we've just kind of come off a cycle of like 80s neons. Reserve colors still continue to be strong. Anything dyed, like any cotton, is going to naturally fade over time. Polyesters tend to maintain their vibrancy. Cotton polyester blends. And then again, we could do a whole session on dyeing and finishing. But we're starting to see trends into, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's just beige everywhere. Like if you go to like stores. So we came out of this sort of cycle of a lot of grays and blacks and brights, and now you're going to see a lot of beiges. It's very interesting. I was in Target over the weekend, because Targets are real. If you want to see color trend, just walk through a Target. Walk through every department, because Target does a really good job, like in their clothing and their housewares, that little thing in the front of the store where they have their little trends. So I think natural colors are going to be strong. So anything like earth tones. But yeah, that's where we're kind of seeing. But, you know.
The circularity is, I mean, the changes are crazy. You couldn't sell a natural shirt like 5 years ago, and now it's trendy. That's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, farmhouse style is going away, and now we're into like 70s earth tones. So, but, you know, that could be for the next 3 weeks. Like, it's just, the cycle changes so quick.
That's a good question. What about the, I think you touched on it a little bit. Over the years, like how have these trends changed more quickly?
Yeah, I think trends change really fast. And that's why I think you can really, there's just, everything is out there all the time. You know, our industry is, there's parts of it that are pretty trendy, but parts of it that are more kind of middle of the road, and it depends. Again, it goes back to our original thing, fit, you know, kind of fit of styles. Is it all, it's all out there.
Another question?
Just going to ask you, have you seen any differences between children's and
Differences between children's and
adult?
adult fashion.
Aren't children just miniature adults now? Yeah. I mean, like, I just think more and more kids' fashion, especially little girls' fashion, is very adult. You know, it's interesting. I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm glad my kids
I'll say
don't
bad.
run. So.
Let me go on record as saying bad. More questions?
See things like one times one rib collars with clean neckline, shoulder to shoulder casket, 2-needle hem sleeves and buttons. There's a wide range of different descriptions.
Yes.
This is a good question.
So like a 1 times 1 means a 1x1 rib, right? So that ribs construction is like, you know, 1x1, 2x1, 2x2. Double needle just means sometimes around like a seam, you'll see a single needle top stitch, a double needle. So just double needle would mean you'll see 2 rows of stitching. It's a good way to reinforce. Sometimes it's just a style thing.
It's done with different sewing
Yeah,
machines.
like inside the neck, sometimes of a t-shirt, you'll just see like, it looks like just like an edge stitch, and other times you'll see they've sewn on like a nice clean rib on the back neck. So it's just, you know, added layers of quality. The 1x1 rib is like the trim around the neck and the sleeve, you know, so a t-shirt that has that little band, that's a rib, 1x1 rib.
Yeah, if it's like single needle, it's more likely to unravel, right? Like on the
Yeah.
bottom hem or something. If they double knead it, it's a
Yeah.
different sewing machine.
And sometimes you'll have a single needle stitching around the sleeve. It just looks more elegant. It's just a finishing detail. Okay.
It's funny, I don't think I've ever seen all those terms like in one place. I think the Ink Kitchen's going to have to do that. Like the
That'll be
definition.
my post-retirement
Oh, all
project.
right, yeah. I'll give you 3 beers and a bottle of wine, and
No
that's how
beer,
we that's how we roll. And a free T-shirt, 'cause you won't get them free anymore. Other questions about garments? All right, how about a hand for Andrea? And she'll stick around for a minute if you have private questions. And I want to thank our sponsor again, Emerald and Hirsch and Stalls and Los Angeles Apparel from the Kitchen. This talk and all of our talks, we have over 200 sponsored by Impressions, are up on our website, our YouTube channel, In Kitchen. Thanks for coming.